Let's get started. Hello, everybody. My name is Julien. I'm a software engineer and the CEO and founder of Unlock Protocol. Maybe I start with a little bit of context on myself. I've been a software engineer for almost 20 years, 15 plus years at this point. And I'm really coming to crypto not from a cryptography background, not from a finance background, even though I studied as a banker. I come to this with a web background. I've been working on the open web for, again, 15 plus years at this point, with really the idea that the open web is the best invention that I think mankind has ever put out. I call this the collective brain. It's basically how we work, how we interact, how we socialize, how we do everything. And especially after a year and a half, 2 years of pandemic, I think it's pretty clear that without the web, we would be pretty miserable today. So let's get started. I want to go back to the origin of the web and really kind of project you back what Charles did earlier today as well, kind of 30 years back. I think you're in Switzerland at CERN, which is the place where technically HTTP was, I don't say invented, but created in some way. And think about the team that actually started working on this. And they had to devise a protocol to allow basically documents to be consumed across the internet from Switzerland to the US, from the US to China, etc. And you had to think about like status code to make sure that it was easy to understand what kind of document you were getting back from a server remotely. You all know of 404, which is the status that basically means that the document is not found. Rumors say that it's actually the server room at CERN was actually room number 404. And when they were trying to find a mechanism, say, hey, this is not found, also go look for it in the server room at room 404. What's interesting is like they also devised or thought about a number for payment required, and that's 402. I'm not sure you've seen this. It's actually pretty sure you have not seen it because it's very, very rarely used online at this point. And they quickly realized that it was going to be very, very hard. So they basically say, hey, let's create status code 402, but let's actually define it later. And to this day, which is literally 30 years later, it still says to be defined later. And I think this is actually the origin kind of sin of the web. You can see it behind here. It's the Eve eating the apple or taking an apple and give it to Adam. I think that's the original sin of the web. It's the fact that initially it was just too hard to think about payment, think about money on the web, and just we pushed that for later, or they pushed that for later. From there, things started to go down pretty quickly. So this was actually 92-ish. In 94, on the hotwire.com website, was getting popular with, I don't know, about maybe 100 people a day, which is very small these days, but again, 94. They started to realize like they needed to monetize, they need to make money out of this. And so they created the first banner ad. This is not this one. Can you guess what is the first click-through rate that they got on that banner ad? It's kind of insane. They got a click-through rate of 44%. So it means that basically half of the people who saw the ad clicked on it. Today, you would dream of having like 0.5% click-through rate on an ad. So this was kind of, it's probably still one of the best ads of all times. So the thing though is like very quickly when they did this, they realized like they, and obviously people later on, realized that it was actually easier to, I mean, they were optimizing for the outcome and they say, hey, wait, if we get paid when people click on ads, what are we going to do? We're going to do more ads. We're going to do ads that are more clickable in that way. And we're going to try to create more content. And again, things went down pretty quickly, pretty bad. Started with what we've all heard in the late 90s, early 2000s, what we call information overload. Like, oh, there's just too many things. Well, that's coming because the incentive for a creator who is monetizing with ads, with attention generally, is to actually create more and more content. It's like basically, I'll just create another slideshow. I'll just create an article that has nothing interesting in it, but I mean, if only one person sees it, then that's a little bit of money for me. From there, they also realized that, wait, now that we're being paid from attention, what if we found a mechanism to actually attract more attention? And that's kind of the accident on the side of the street, right? Like everybody looks at the accident because this is interesting. Well, that's clickbait. That's the idea that, you know what? There is something interesting. If you click on here, you'll learn about this. So why don't you click here? We've all seen many of these things, slideshows, and again, these kind of very, very thin things. With the social web, emerged another thing which I think is even scarier. It's the idea of fake news. It's like in the end, it doesn't matter what you write. It doesn't matter if it's true, if it's false. If it's controversial, the great important thing is like a lot of people are going to share it, write about it, learn about it, and expand and amplify it. And so that's actually what fake news is in many ways. It's just a way to amplify, or it's a way to leverage the social media amplification to get more and more people to click and see ads. And again, when we optimize for attention, which is what, again, the ad-driven web does, you end up with something that's pretty unhealthy for our collective brain. Obviously, we all know about the fact that when you want to optimize for ads, you will optimize for tracking your users all over the place. You want to know everything that they care about, everything that they do online or offline, actually, because you will be able to show them better ads or ads that are more targeted, more relevant to them. And that's how you end up with surveillance capitalism that we're all pretty familiar with. But the thing that I think is even more interesting or maybe more frightening or more disappointing is ads are actually a pretty bad way to capture a value. I'll give you a couple numbers. So this is the demand curve. On the left, you see that the highest users that really love some content or love some community or love some brand actually are just paying the same price as the people that don't care about this because they see the same number of ads on the page. And so you have basically something that is pretty bad at capturing value. And that's visible in a lot of ways. If you think about the ARPU, the average revenue per user, in Europe, for Netflix, is about $132 a year. I mean, you multiply the monthly subscription to Netflix, and you multiply by 12, and that's what you get. On the other hand, Facebook, which has this roughly the same amount of time, like believe it or not, an average user spends the same time on Facebook and on Netflix every day. Facebook's in Europe makes about $50 a year per user. So basically, Facebook, which is again, one of the most optimized ad platform that you can think of, makes less than half the money that Netflix makes by just charging users, even though users spend the same amount of time. So it's actually a pretty bad way to capture value. A couple days ago, another number came out. I'm going to try to remember this, but basically, you all know of Axie Infinity, which is this new game on the blockchain, obviously, is going to make about $2 billion in revenue this year, even though they have if I'm correct, 30 times less users than Snapchat. So basically, Snapchat is going to make $5 billion revenue with 300 million users, and they're going to make basically just twice as much money as, again, Axie is making with, if I'm correct, again, 30 times more users. So a very bad way to capture value. Like ads are actually pretty bad at capturing value. What's worse is that you think, well, at least I don't pay for stuff, right? If there's ads, it's free. Well, trust me, it's actually not free. First, there's a lot of unintended externalities. When you have a web that is driven by ads, we end up with what we said earlier, like fake news, misinformation, a lot of stuff that is very costly to society in practice. But there's actually very tangible costs as well. If you think about the average news site in the US, 50% of the bandwidth, or half of it, is actually consumed to serve you ads, trackers, and things that you don't care about. So half of the bandwidth that is used to serve you free content is for ads. Here, even though I'm French, I live in the US, I use Google Fi here. When I got a message, when I got to friends, they say, hey, same subscription, same everything the same. For every 10 gigabyte, or sorry, for every gigabyte, you're going to pay $10. So basically, to get free content, I pay $5, half of what I pay, in bandwidth, so that I don't actually pay for the stuff, which is kind of weird. Like you pay for ads to not pay for the content. But it's not just that. If you think about batteries, I just got a new phone. Charles was joking with me earlier that, hey, you change phone every 2 years. Like, yes, you change phone every 2 years. It feels like the web is getting slower. Well, it's not the phone that's getting slower. It's just the web is getting more and more fat with less and less, basically nutritive fat for the content that you're being served. So again, you think it's free. Actually, you're paying for this so that you actually don't pay for this, which is kind of very, very, very strange. Obviously, and that's why I'm here, there is a better way. There is a way that, if you go back again 30 years in the origin of the web, was pretty obvious back then and we missed. And this is something that we keep talking about because in crypto it's actually a pretty big thing. Earlier today we talked a lot about like the ledger community. Well, the better way is actually communities. This is actually pretty late in the history of the web. It's early 2000, 2005, I'd say, where we were starting to see the emergence of what we call online communities. And again, if you go back even further than this, the first time you connected to the internet was probably because you wanted to connect some bulletin board system. We mentioned ICQ earlier, the famous all of these kind of forums that you were on earlier. Well, there were online communities. And you would, I would at least, I'm sure some of you would as well, spend literally hours on there. And there was some ads, you would never click on the ad, but you really cared about these things. These were where your friends were, where your culture was, where a lot of the things that you would interact with were. They were all Discord before Discord was even a thing, or even an idea that the people who would create a Discord were even born, I guess, at that point. But anyway, going back to that time, what if we had used another pattern? What if, instead of saying, hey, this is going to be free forever, we have some kind of membership? And this is a model that actually has started to emerge and is now pretty big on a lot of communities, it's the idea of paying for the stuff that you care about. If you think about things like Patreon or Kickstarter, which actually made a lot of noise over the last few days, it's just a way for people that love a creator, love a community, love an artist, love a musician, a painter. Well, you know what? If you love them, why don't you give them $1, $2, $3, $5 a month? It's not doesn't have to be ruinous. It's less than a coffee at Starbucks, even in Paris. In the end, it's little money for a lot of valuable things. And these things, again, are the alternative, these memberships. So I'm putting here a bunch of different examples. You already know of Bored Apes, which is one of these NFT-based memberships, a good example of this. Tons of value there. Buying one of these, I got one stolen, so I know they're pretty expensive because I didn't use a ledger. Anyway, they're pretty expensive. Definitely tons of value there in the form of money. But one of the most famous one that we all know of is Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime in the US has more than 300 million members. It's one of the largest membership that you can think of. People pay $120 a year to get free shipping on their goods, but also access to some music, some video content, and all of these things. What's really interesting to know about Prime is actually the revenue that Prime makes is the profit that Amazon makes. So you could almost get rid of everything else that Amazon has and just say, hey, you know what? Amazon's business, it's its membership, that's it. New York Times is another example of a membership. I am sure a lot of people have the New York Times subscription. I am in that case, without actually reading much of the New York Times, because they just want to support what they think is actually good press. We'll read an article from time to time. It's probably the most expensive article that you read, because they spend actually their $10 just for one article. But that's a way to actually show support for something that you care about and making sure that it stays healthy. Because if we don't actually pay for this, we don't know how they make their money, and in the end, they probably make their money in ways that are not serving us. So again, membership as the alternative. The challenge, though, is like if you look at all of these memberships, they're very different. Of course, Bored Apes, I need to have a crypto wallet. It's not open to everyone yet. Hopefully at some point it will. New York Times, I need to create an account there. It's pretty frictionful. I could put an email address, password, remember them, do the same on my phone. Damn it, I forgot password. I have to change again, get another email, click. It's just a nightmare. Then I have to put my credit card number. Oh, it's going to expire at the end of the month. I'm going to put my credit card number again. Really frictionful. Amazon is the same. Create an account, put credit card, have to remember these things all the time. God forbid my card is stolen. God forbid any of these websites that I get a subscription from gets hacked. Otherwise, I would lose all of my accesses. It's really, really painful. Well, what if, going back to the early days of the web, there was a protocol for membership? What if there was a way to actually say, hey, all of the memberships around us work the same way. Whether I pay for a Substack newsletter, whether I listen to music on Spotify, whether I pay for a ticket to a conference, whether I saw here in the entryway, this is a place that actually has a membership where you can pay to get access to some of their expos on a year-long basis. What if it was all the same kind of object? In the same way that every website is, it's not the same, but it's kind of the same kind of object. It's HTML, it's HTTP, it's JavaScript. It works the same, which means that we have a single web browser that allows us to watch that content anywhere on the web. Well, what if there was a membership protocol? And that's what Unlock is, basically. It is a protocol for membership that actually uses NFTs to represent these memberships. So the way it works is basically, as a creator, I would deploy my membership contract. I'll say, hey, my members are going to pay $5, $10, maybe 5 cents, I don't know, for a day, a week, a month. This is not specific. This is part of the protocol. Basically, the protocol says, hey, just define a time and a price. And then I would put that membership on my website, inside of my Android application, inside of my iOS application, inside of the physical space, and say, hey, anybody that shows up and can prove that they own an NFT by just signing a message that actually shows that they prove that they own that NFT, I will give them the member benefits. I will give them access to the content, access to the Discord, access to, again, the features inside of my application. And that's what Unlock is. Obviously, what's interesting here is, like, as we've seen earlier, ads are actually a pretty bad way at capturing demand on the demand curve. Like, very big fans are paying the same price that very, casual fans, I'd say. Well, if you think about memberships, nothing says that a given artist doesn't have multiple levels of membership. Even a conference might have different types of tickets, like the early bird tickets or the late comers tickets. You could have basically an artist say, hey, you know what? My most casual fans are going to get something because they just follow me on social networks. They're going to get the lowest level kind of membership. Maybe they pay, maybe they don't pay anything. Just show their interest by having my NFT. But then I have some more casual fans that want to interact with me a bit more often. They want to maybe listen to my music. Then for these, I'll just charge you a little bit more, maybe $1 a month or something like this. That gives them kind of the bare minimum benefits. Then I've got more active fans that are more active, more engaging. So these, maybe, I'll create a private Discord server. And these, again, more engaged fans will be able to come to that private Discord servers, not the other ones, and kind of share between themselves and get access to this. Maybe there's also super fans. Super fans are the one that actually get discounts on my merch store, on my Shopify store. They show up and they get a discount because, you know what, they're my strongest fans, so they get like cheaper hats or cheaper, I don't know, t-shirts or something else. And then there's cold fans, the one that are paying like $1,000 a month, the one that get access to backstage at my concert, or maybe the one that actually get to book their tickets for the concerts before anybody else for a day. So again, the idea that there is a demand curve, it's true for everything, you know, taste, some people like rap, some people like electronic music, means that we need to be able to have very kind of distinguished ways to charge fans in a different way. And that's what Unlock allows, basically by saying, hey, all of these memberships are actually working the same way. They use the same features, the same capabilities. They can be used across different applications, while still allowing creators to kind of distinguish and treat differently different kinds of fans. Well, this is it for today. More than happy to take a question now. And yes, please take the mic and let me know what you think. Nobody? Oh, sure, go ahead. Do we have a microphone? Oh, you can. I'll voice it out.
In terms of NFT and membership for NFTs, the reality of now is that very often, there's a limited supply, a bunch of investors and
Yes.
large tech. When you think about decentralization and social inclusion.
Yes. So there's, I mean.
I know the price is up to.
Yeah. So the question is like, well, a lot of NFTs have a scarce, limited supply, and then there's some investors, call them investors, hoarders, that would just try to capture most of the supply quickly on so they can sell it later. Well, every NFT can be different. I mean, the Unlock NFTs actually have an expiration date. So you can say, hey, yes, instead of you purchase now, but if you don't use it in the next month, well, you're going to have to purchase it again because it expires. But also you can make unlimited supplies. Like the NFT itself doesn't have to be just an investment object with a limited supply. You can say, hey, there's an unlimited amount of fan NFTs. If somebody shows up in 5 years, they're still going to be able to buy one. It just gives them some different benefits. The Prime membership, Amazon Prime, doesn't have a cap in terms of how many people can get one. So that's another way to do this. But you're right, there's still value in being saying, hey, my Platinum fans, the one that are going backstage, yes, I want only 1,000 of these, and maybe they're going to be lifetime. Maybe they're going to be like, you get access forever. And then there's a market for these. Cool. What's interesting also about NFTs, we've all heard about this, is the fact that you can monetize the secondary market. You can say, hey, every time somebody sells one of these expensive memberships, I can still take a little cut and get, as a creator, a share of the profit that they're making on top of my membership. Cool. I think there was another question right there.
Yes, very good presentation.
Thank you very much.
How do you let casual users purchase the non-crypto users?
That is definitely a very good question. The question is like, how do you let non-crypto users purchase an NFT if they don't have a wallet, I guess, or if they're not using using a wallet? Well, there's many, many ways. First, one of the things that I think we start to realize in the crypto space is like the person who buys doesn't have to be the person who owns. So for example, like I could give you now €5 and you go buy a coffee from me and give it to me. In that scenario, I'm not paying with my wallet, I'm paying you with cash so that you pay with your wallet. So what Unlock has done is actually support credit cards. Say, hey, you don't have a crypto wallet, it's fine. Just pay us with your credit card, and then we'll actually purchase the NFT for you and give you the NFT. You're not paying with crypto, but you're getting an asset that we purchased for you or on your behalf. So that's actually one of the ways that we support this. Another way that we introduced recently is actually the idea of giving away memberships for free. So one of the examples, like I said earlier, like if you follow me on Twitter, well, you can get an NFT from me. I'll just build or give it to you for free if you can claim it in some way, like airdrop it in a way that will allow you to access content. If you want to upgrade that membership into a higher level, then at that point you will need a wallet that actually you put money in. Make sense? Yeah, go ahead.
In this moment, like the critics of the Amazon Prime or some New York Times was, oh, I lose my password now, I need to go back to the restore. What if I lose my mnemonic? Nobody can restore. From the user side, it's a totally terrible because like in the case of Web 2, some forces will help me, and here nobody can help me.
Yes, somebody can help you. It's the same ideas. Like basically, if you want to go very high secure and use your own little hardware wallet to get access to these things, obviously you're on your own, but you can use things, and I don't want to talk about them necessarily, but things like Argent or some other mechanisms that would allow you to have multiple signers on something that if you lose something, you can still have your friends give you back access to that. So I do think that we're, and this is a great thing for Ledger, we're just at the beginning of what wallets are going to be like. I think there's still now kind of a very big, like, and it makes sense for the DeFi or the financial use cases, the wallet is the highest security thing. I think we're going to have a lot of identities. And when I think about wallet, I actually don't think about money. I think about identity. And I think we're definitely going to be able to move into a world where you have multiple identities in the form of multiple wallets. Some of them highly, highly secure because that's where your assets are. Some of them maybe not so much less secure, but more flexible in terms of what you can do with them and allowing basically your friends to help you recover this if you've lost them. Make sense? Cool. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm available for questions afterward as well. Thanks.